I am actually a licensed Class A semi driver. I'm a Class A driver, commercial driver is what it's technically known as. Class A means I'm allowed to drive all the big trucks. If I had a Class B, I could drive the smaller big trucks. But I've been licensed for coming on to 5 years now. Yep, next month, 5 years, and I've actually held multiple jobs doing a variety of different things with my Class A license, and I have spent a lot of time behind the wheels of a number of different trucks. And so I want to come in here today and I want to give you my initial reaction to the Tesla Semi event. I just finished listening to that whole thing. Kudos to the Tesla team for pulling that off. It is outstanding, and it's going to be really fun to see those trucks on the road and see how they change the industry. So I want to start off with my initial reactions, and then we'll go into some additional questions I still have that didn't get answered in the event. So nobody's here yet, but maybe you'll watch this later. And so I'm just gonna keep on going. So I've actually owned a Model Y for a number of years now, and know exactly what it's like to drive a Tesla. But like I said, I've also spent the time behind the driver wheel of a semi, a number of different types of semis. And that's one thing, that's actually where I want to start. Most people don't realize that there are different types of semis. They just see big truck and they think, oh, semi. But these trucks can hook up to all different types of trailers. And I'm getting off track. So the Tesla Semi, what were my initial key takeaways? Everybody gets caught up on acceleration when it comes to Tesla. Like, oh, look at the acceleration. That's kind of cool, but most of the time when you're driving these big trucks, you don't really want to do a fast start, fast stop. You want a gradual start and a gradual stop. Because you take off too fast. Most of the time when I was driving, you'd have pallets of stuff loaded in the back, and sometimes it was pallets of tents and other equipment. And I spent a year delivering beer, and you'd have pallets of beer stacked up, and it'd all be saran wrapped and kind of held together. But you stop on that brake too hard, and you'd be spending an hour picking beer up off the floor and sweeping up glass bottles that you just destroyed because some idiot cut you off and you made you slam on your brakes. And you're talking about an hour to pick it up. I once spent 2.5 hours picking up 3 pallets that were all going to different stores. That when I stepped on the brake too hard, they all fell over. They all mixed together. It's also sometimes you corner too hard, and the same thing would happen. Because a lot of these loads in the enclosed trailers, they don't have to be strapped down in any manner whatsoever. So you would just stack them up, saran wrap them, and you kind of jam them in there so they won't fall over. But as you go through your day, you do, let's say, on average, I had 12 to 15 stops, and that would be like 18 pallets because some stops would get 2 pallets. And so at your end of the day, you only have 4 pallets left up there. Usually five. Odd numbers are the worst because you can't hold them together the same. And then you start having pallets fall over with too much acceleration or de-acceleration. So with the big trucks though, acceleration isn't really a problem. It can be though if you're bad at shifting, which these trucks won't shift. But you do a bad shift and you get the whole truck to jerk pretty hard. That'll do it. So the whole acceleration thing with the Tesla semis, no drivers really caring about. Now, one thing they do care about though is top speed up a hill. I mean, we've all driven through the mountains, right? Where I'm at, there's mountains just an hour north, and when I drove a semi through there, I mean, fully loaded, I drove doubles up through the mountains next to Mount Shasta, and you hit those big hills. I'd have 2 trailers, each one weighing. I mean, my truck would be like, I don't know, 60, 75,000 pounds between both trailers and the truck, and I'd be going 25 miles an hour. I mean, that's school zone speeds going up these hills, and going back down. The rule is when you're driving a semi, you go down the hill the same speed you went up it, right? Because generally, if you got a 3% grade up one hill, you generally have a 3% grade down the other side. It's not always the case, but it is generally the rule. So if you went up a hill and your truck could only get to going 25 miles an hour, you need to go down the hill in that same gear or lower because your Jake brake is more effective in lower gears. So if you go up into like eighth or ninth gear going down a hill, your Jake brake is completely useless. Now, Jake brake, that is something that you really only find on semis. For those of you who don't know, a Jake brake engages the clutch when you're going downhill, or when you're stopping in general. You put the clutch into a lower gear, and it actually someone explained to me. I don't know how accurate this is, but they explained that it revs the engine up higher, and when you apply the Jake brake, that revving produces a extra exhaust, which goes back in, and it actually the wheels. Okay, so this is how it explained to me. The wheels are spinning the engine, and they're actually spinning the engine and the pistons in the engine faster than the gas is actually than your engine is actually trying to go, and so the engine is actually running in reverse and actually used to slow yourself down. Not the best explanation. I never really got. I never read a book on it or anything. I just had some guy who's been doing it for 20 years explain it to me. So I could be completely wrong on that. But like I said, a Jake brake, you have to be. If you're in 10th gear, it's only going to slow you down from 65 to 60. It's not going to do anything. But if you're in first gear, it'll slow you down. I mean, you can only get into first gear if you're going, I don't know, 5 miles or less. So first gear, you'll just slowly ride down that hill. But I don't know if you guys heard them mention when Elon Musk was on stage, he talked about, oh, you don't actually have a Jake brake. You get to the bottom, you haven't used your brakes at all. That's actually really, really important because, like, the first time I ever went from the Redding area out to the coast, there's this one hill. I think it's a 5% grade, and it's like you're going up this hill, right? And it's a 3% grade, and it's the first time I've ever really spent any time in the mountains. I'm still like a new driver. I've only been driving about a month, and I was like, I'm going up and down. I'm having trouble downshifting. Downshifting is not the easiest thing. I crest this hill. I'm like, oh, perfect. It's got like, I don't know, a few hundred feet of just perfectly flat road. I thought I had 2 miles of flat road but you round this corner and then bam, you're in a 5% downgrade, which is just way too steep, way too steep. And so I immediately downshift. I didn't shift it up. I was probably in 6th and I needed to be in 3rd. So I immediately downshift to 4th. But there's this truck in front of me, which, I mean, I could have survived. I mean, I would have got going a little faster than I needed to. But I tapped my brakes, feather it in and out. But there's this truck in front of me, this little tiny blue pickup truck that's going, I don't know, 15 miles an hour down this road. And in 4th gear, my truck's trying to go 25. That's a good 10 miles an hour faster that my truck's trying to go. So my Jake brake is completely useless. So, and me being a new driver, I pop it out. I'm like slamming on my brake, trying to get it in 3rd, and I'm panicking. And when you panic, it just makes it so much harder. It's like I don't have the muscle memory I have the muscle memory from driving a standard stick shift, so I keep jamming that clutch all the way to the floor, engaging the clutch brake, throwing off my timing. I can't get it downshifted. And I got within 5 feet of this truck, and he didn't speed up one bit. I rode him probably like 50 yards within 5 feet of this truck, and he didn't speed up at all. I don't even saw him. Brakes were burning. I was so close to getting on, taking one of those runaway truck ramps. It's just not safe. But that's the Jake brake. And it's like with new beginner drivers, they just ride the brakes down and they start heating up. I mean, that's 80,000 pounds at a fully loaded truck that you're taking down a 5% grade. That's way too much energy that you start burning brakes up. But you talk about this electric truck. It's like, I don't know if you guys ever driven a Tesla through the mountains. It is so much fun. You hit those hills, you don't even notice. And it's like you finally get a chance to floor your car without breaking the speed limit. And you just like shoot right up those hills. I can't imagine how much fun it would be to do the same thing with one of those semis. Ooh, that'd be fun. And then the same thing, it's like if you can go up it at 65 miles an hour, you could probably go down those hills at 65 miles an hour. Now, I don't know how effective those brakes are, but I mean, you have the 3 motors braking you, plus your brakes, you could probably come to a stop in just about the same amount of time on a 5% downgrade as you would on a flat ground with a regular semi-truck. So it's probably still safe to come down at 65 miles an hour. Now, most likely you're not going to be doing that because wherever you see those kind of hills, you also see crazy corners. And trucks like that, They sit pretty high up. The standard bed is like, I don't know, 4 to 6 feet off the ground. So I think 4 or 5 feet off the ground. So you can get the low riding boys, which you'll see a number of those. But so you're not going to be cornering. You're not going to be taking corners like you do with a Tesla, like a Model 3 or whatever. But it's going to be a lot of fun riding those down. If you guys have any questions, I see there's two of you here. Just go ahead and shoot them in the comments down below. Otherwise, I'll just keep rambling on. But yeah, the Jake brake is game changer. Now, a lot of people are like, ooh, 500 miles, and how long do you have to charge it? It's like, first of all, all of those points are moot now because we saw they actually took a fully loaded truck 500 miles. Now, they did go, here's what gets me. Here's what gets me. They went from, what did they say? The Bay Area down to LA. Now, I don't know about that trip exactly, but I do know when I go from the Redding area down to Sacramento, I can get there in half a charge. Half a charge with my long-range Model Y. Perfect. But when I go from Sacramento back, it takes me a charge and a half. And that's because there's a ever so slight change in elevation across 200 miles. And so that 200-mile trip is half a charge. But coming back up, it's a charge and a half because there's an ever so slight change in elevation. Now, so you're talking about the Bay Area down to LA. I was like, I don't know exactly what the change in elevation it would be, but there might have been some. So that is a big question when you're talking about this semi truck going 500 miles. It's like, okay, if I'm in the Redding area and I'm trying to get to Medford or Bend up in Oregon, there's a lot of mountains in between me, and you're going to be going up and down those mountains. Now, you have to realize that you do have the regenerative braking. So going, it's like, as long as the overall change in elevation is about average, you should come out pretty well set. But I mean, if you're going from pretty low and you're trying to get to the top of a mountain, are you going to have 300 miles range? Are you going to have 100 miles range? I mean, I don't quite know how a big truck loaded to 82,000 pounds is going to handle. Like, how is the battery going to handle that? Is it going to be like, oh, you lose 5% of your range, or are you going to lose 25, 75, 50? It's like, that's a big question. Another question is, like, so a lot of these trucks, they have it's like lift gates. So I drove trucks delivering beer to just different gas stations, and the trucks we drove all had lift gates. So, but not all semi trucks are hooked up to work with lift gates. So the trailer actually has the lift gate, and it has some battery packs on it that run the lift gate. But it's got a special cable that hooks up to the back of the truck that charges those batteries while you're driving. Not every truck I've driven has had that extra hookup for the trailer's PTO, power takeoff. I don't know if that's technically PTO, but so it's like, okay, can I hook a trailer up with a liftgate? That's an important question. Now, they are delivering these trucks to PepsiCo, and I know Pepsi does has a lot of distribution centers that need these, because I don't know if you guys know this, but Pepsi delivers all their own product to every store that sells their product. So when you go into Winco or Walmart or any of these big stores, Pepsi actually sends their own guy with their truck. They drop it off. They send another guy into that store who goes, grabs a pallet jack, grabs that product. Grabs that product and sticks on the shelf. So it's like Pepsi does all of it. And so, or Pepsi or a Pepsi qualified distributor, which, same thing. So it's like, yeah, you power takeoff. That's important. Also, they talk about the connection between the semi truck and the trailer and how you can't over optimize one without affecting the other. And but it's like, my question is like, okay, you're driving these box trailers, and you have, I don't know if you guys saw, they had these extra wings that stuck out and closed that gap between the trailer and the truck to help with the wind efficiency. But when you're driving a flatbed, they showed a few videos of them driving a flatbed with some cement blocks on the back. When you're driving a flatbed like that all of that wind efficiency goes away, because now you just have a giant windbreak. So it's like, okay, that windbreak, if you're driving with a flatbed, which a lot of guys love flatbeds because they're way more versatile. So like, you can just buy your own truck and be a owner operator, where you just tell some dispatcher like, oh, hey, I'm in this area. Do you want to move somewhere? And so all those guys have flatbeds, because you can stick 3 pallets of concrete on it, drive it up to Reading, deliver it to the lumber store here, and then you can drive across the street, load it up with a bunch of cut lumber from our forests up here, and drive them down to the Bay Area and deliver them down there. It's like you just end up moving stuff in every which direction, because no matter where you go, there's no load that needs to go somewhere. And all those guys drive with flatbeds, so if that's going to significantly affect your wind efficiency and your aerodynamics, and that's going to kill your range. So I wonder how that'll go. So Aaron says you can have a 10% of your range at the top of the mountains, and you'll end up with lots more when you reach the bottom on the other side. Yeah. So that's exactly what I was talking about. It's like I mean, I own a Tesla Model Y, and it's like I was just the other day up at Lassen, which I'm down in Reading, and it's at the bottom of the mountains. So all around us, it's a little basin, and we're surrounded on every side but the south by just mountains. And so Lassen is one of these big mountains. And so we spent the weekend camping up there, right? And so we drove our Model Y up. We camped top of this mountain, and fully charged, right? Fully charged. It was like an hour and a half drive, but we went uphill the whole way because we're going up into the mountains to camp because it was cooler during the summer, right? And we ended up at the top of the mountain with 40% of our battery. An hour and a half drive. It was, I don't know, 50, 60 miles. It was crazy. We just destroyed our battery. And of course, we camp overnight, and I'm like, ooh, maybe it was 60%. I think it was closer. I think it was 40. I just know it was like just above or just below 0.5%. But we get up there, we camped, we were there for about a day and a half, and our car sat the whole time. There wasn't anywhere to charge it because we're just out in the middle of the woods. And the car battery dropped another like 3 to 5%, something like that. So coming back, I'm like, oh, we're gonna be okay. But we were at the top of the mountain, and we drove for 60 miles and lost 1% of our battery because it was all downhill. And it was a good drive. It was a good hour and a half drive, and no problem. Just didn't lose any battery. So I mean, I know there's like this one guy who talks about how he runs a mine at the top of a hill, and all their trucks, they go down the hill loaded to drop off their loads, and they come up the hill empty. So he's talking about how with his semi truck, he can load them. I mean, you talk about a 20,000. I don't know what this truck weighs, but 20,000 truck and trailer going up a hill is like going to use, like, I don't know, maybe it uses 30% of his battery to get up the hill. But then you load it up with 70,000 pounds or 60,000 pounds. Yeah, I know, 1%. It was crazy. It was so cool. The 1% loss after the 60, it was like an hour and a half drive, and we lost 1%. I mean, we lost 3% and we gained 2 back. Watch that. And it's like, they talk about these semis. If you load it up with 60,000 pounds and send it down a hill, I mean, is that technically charging it? You're just converting potential energy into electrical energy and just run your trucks off of that, which, I mean, it's super cool. I mean, these trucks are a game changer. The other thing I want to talk about is there's no real seating in there. They talk about, oh, look, we got this really cool seat in the center. I was like, but you actually have to, I mean, every job I've ever worked with, and like 90% of the time I spent working there, I just drove the truck by myself and I did whatever needed to be done. The truck needed loaded, unloaded if it needed. There was either people there who met me and took care of it, or I just did it myself, which was fine. But there were 10% of the time, like right now during Christmas season, is like all these trucks are super, super busy. They're moving a lot of product, and they have to hit multiple stores. They have to get done faster. So they just hire a bunch of temp guys, stick them in the truck with you. They pay them minimum wage to sit in the truck and go wherever you go. Yeah. So they go wherever you go, and they just get out and help you. They just help you be 20% faster, loading and unloading the truck. And that was their whole job. They just sit there. But it's like, sometimes we needed 2 guys in the truck. Sometimes we needed 1. But you always had to have extra seating. I actually worked for a company, bought a brand new $120,000 semi truck, and they sent it back because it came with 1 extra seat. And they needed 2. It's like they sent the whole truck back, and they returned the whole truck because it didn't have the seats. So it worries me I think I saw 1 jump seat, which, I mean, it's like when you're driving these trucks, when you're going 3,000 miles in a week, because like cross country, you need a really comfy seat. So the driver's seat is super comfy. But when you only have someone in there, like 1% of the time, up to 10% of the time. No one cares how comfy that seat is. So those seats are always terrible. But as long as they're there, as long as it's illegal to have extra people in the cab with you, which is a big point. And then, like they said, they did say this was a day cab. I wonder when they're going to be releasing a night cab. So a night cab it's got the driver's seat, but it also has a bed in the back. So a lot of these trucks, they're driving through the middle of nowhere, and you just have to stop at a gas station, a truck stop. That's what a truck stop is. You pull in, they got shower for you there, they got food at the gas station, and you just sleep in the back of your truck. And they just got they got crazy amount of parking for all these guys who are sleeping in the bed in the back of their truck. Now, a lot of these trucks, they don't have any power on them unless the truck's running. So a lot of these guys, they'll be idling their truck all night because they need the AC on. And California banned that. Like, no more, not allowed to do that. But everybody tries to do it anyways because you can't just roll down your windows when it's 110 outside and hope that you survive. It's like, especially the guys who drive through the night, they'll drive all night long and sleep through the day so they miss all the traffic. And you can't sleep in a truck like that without AC or you'll just cook to death. So everybody prefers the older trucks that don't have that timed shut off. It's like, I think if the truck idles for 2 or maybe it's 5 minutes, truck idles for 5 minutes without moving, it'll actually shut the engine off, and then you have to turn it back on. So trucks like that, it's yeah. Okay. So in time, the idea is one person and driving, 3 to follow. Yes. So when Tesla first announced this back in 2017, they talked about how I believe Nevada had already given them permission to do caravanning. So the front truck would be driving, and they would just put the 2 trucks behind it, up to 3, or I don't know the exact number. But they have trucks behind it that would just be in like follow mode. And so whatever the truck in front did, they would do. So, and it would just caravan. And so you could have one person driving 3 trucks, which is kind of like a train at that point without tracks. You could just go wherever you want. But I think Nevada only approved this on a conditional basis and stuff like that. But yeah, so the other thing about the AC issue with the gas trucks is like it also, there's a lot of people who do like short deliveries, right? You pull your truck up, you park at a gas station. There's like every single cigarette, there's a cigarette truck that drives around. They pull into a gas station, they unload all the cigarettes, take them inside, the guy signs for them, they just drop them right there, they get back in the truck and go. So they're doing like these, they probably hit like 50 or 60 gas stations in a day. All they do is drive to this thing, unload a box, hand it to them, they're off, right? There's core marks. They also, they'll stop and they'll be there for an hour or 2 hours. Budweiser, Pepsi, Coca-Cola, they'll all show up. As like, but the guys who get in and out really fast, they want their truck running the whole time with the AC because otherwise they get out, they go inside, they drop it off, they get back in, and their truck's hot again. And it's like, there's a lot of reasons you want your truck you just want the AC to be on when you get back in the truck. Especially like here in Redding, it hits 120 for like a week straight in the summer. So you get in your truck, it's 140, 145 degrees. It's just not cool. But okay, you guys got any questions before I go? I'm pretty excited about this truck. I appreciate you guys listening to me ramble on about it forever. But it definitely is a game changer. It's going to be interesting to see what Tesla does with it in the future, though, because it is just hitting one small segment of the market. I don't see a lot of people doing cross country with this yet, especially since you need the chargers. And but it does, and there are a lot of trucks that are more specialized that have cranes on the back and stuff like that. That it doesn't seem like this is going to work for just yet. But yeah, pretty cool, pretty exciting. Thanks y'all for watching. Like and subscribe. I haven't posted on here in a while, but I do post a lot of good Tesla content when I'm up to it, and I appreciate you guys spending your time with me. Have a great night. Yeah, I'd love to drive it. I know Zach and Jesse of the, what is that? The Now You Know channel. They have one on order and they're looking for a driver, but I'm in California and they're on the East Coast. But yeah, maybe. Okay, you guys have a great night.